been computerized.
So, Lynn, how long does it usually take, more or less, to have it
They're
published?
rushing it through, but I don't think they can get any faster than December, probably.
Well, December's fast, I
That
would
sounds
say.
fast to me.
Yeah. Wow. That, Lynn, you are an Amazon.
I almost killed myself doing it though.
So you do need to come to the Balloon Fiesta next year. It is the Balloon Fiesta time in Albuquerque, hence mine and Elliot's backgrounds. Um, if you've not been here, I highly recommend that you try. And if you do, give me a ring so I know. Okay. We would like to know if there are any changes in your local field offices. We know that many have no longer been allowing voter registration at the naturalization ceremonies. And if there's other changes like longer waits or other things that you're seeing, please let me know, me or Lynn. We are, or Mary Joan Reuter, we're on some tests, some tests, some working groups that were collected this kind of information. Um, okay. I want to remind you that we do need presenters for cases. I'll be doing the case today, and any one of you should be able to pop up with something at the spur of the moment. I mean, you're all seasoned teachers, things come up that you kind of wonder, I wonder how someone else would deal with that, or could someone else teach us differently, or, you know, whatever I did, was this okay, or how would you handle the situation? Even if you handled it great, it could be a learning moment. The main thing is a teachable learning moment for all of us. We'd like you to share those. Next session for next month, we will have Bill Bliss and Lynn Weintraub, who will talk about the new test, about strategies and some things that are different. We'll go into, I don't want to take any more time. Today's presentation is our very own Kelly Reynolds, and she's been teaching citizenship classes and English as second language for the last 5 years. Um, she did teach and supervise citizenship classes under the USCIS, under its former title. And she's then a paralegal, an insurance adjuster, a public horticulturist. She has degrees in Spanish, Russian, horticulture, and has her TESOL. So I'm going to let you get started, Kelly.
Thank you, Mara. It sounds like I've changed careers like some people change their underwear, but I'm just a very curious person and can't seem to settle down. But I do feel like I'm happiest when I'm teaching. So I think I'm in good company today. I'm going to share my screen and we'll get started. All right. I'm hoping everybody can see my screen. I'm seeing some nods, so that's a good sign. So Lynn kind of already told you a little bit about me. I will say, hold on. I have 3 jobs. I'm supposed to be semi-retired, but I keep getting more work. It's not really what I want, but I just recently had to buy 4 new tires, so I guess it's a good thing. But I teach citizenship through the Tulsa YWCA. So I thought I'd give you a little bit of background and how the YWCA ever got involved in the business of citizenship education. I learned through my research that back in the 40s, after World War II, our very own Tulsa YWCA was providing English as a second language and citizenship classes to Jewish refugees in the Tulsa area. Fast forward 40 years to the early 80s, and the YWCA was asked by our local United Way to take on a small social service agency called the Intercultural Service Center. I was director of that program from 88 to 98. And under that, we were, for those of you who have been around for a while, there used to be a standardized test for citizenship, and we were an authorized site. We were also accredited by the Department of Justice to be able to assist people with immigration matters. And then in the 2000s, of course, we had the grant, past tense, had the grant to provide citizenship education. So that's how we got involved. In the Tulsa area, just in case you were curious, we have refugees and immigrants from well over 60 countries. We are actually number 7 in the nation for Burmese refugees, folks from Myanmar. That picture on the bottom left is a class that I had of all students from Myanmar, except for the gentleman with the Eskimo Joe's shirt. He was my sole Venezuelan in the class. His name was Omar, but for some reason the other students couldn't say Omar, so they called him Obama. We do have a pretty decent sized Afghan population. Those folks started arriving in our community in 2021. And so I'm sure in the next few years, they'll be circulating through our citizenship classes. But by far, just because of where we are geographically, our largest community is the Spanish-speaking community from Latin America. We also see a lot of students that have very limited education in their home countries. I'm sure a lot of you have that experience as well. Our citizenship classes are approximately 4 times a year. We do pre-test to make sure and screen to make sure that someone has at least a minimum understanding, actually a little bit more than minimum understanding of English. And then we meet 3 hours twice a week. Right now we only have evening classes, and it's a total of 6 weeks, which is not ideal. When we had the grant, we were 11 weeks, but because the students now have to pay a small tuition, then we had to decrease the length of that class. I want to point out in this picture, you see that the older lady that looks a lot shorter than everybody else. That's Mary. She's a refugee from Myanmar. 88 years old, and let me tell you something, this was one of the smartest people I've ever met. And she had a severe tremor, and she's one of the few students that I've seen actually get one of the medical waivers so that she did not have to take the writing portion of the citizenship interview. She passed her test with flying colors, and happy to say she is now a U.S. citizen. Little bit about marketing and recruiting. We've had some success by advertising on our local Spanish language. We actually have, I think, 3 now radio stations in the Tulsa area that are Spanish only. So, but most of our students come to us through word of mouth. And then I added this picture because I think it's so important to acknowledge the accomplishment of completing this class. So we always do a graduation party. This was a class I had earlier this year, just to acknowledge their accomplishment. So I want to talk for a minute about learning styles. I don't know if you've ever had the opportunity to learn about what your own learning style is, but I think it's incredibly important. I feel like it informs our instruction a lot. If you are a certain type of learner, you tend to teach that way. And it's interesting because I've taken these learning style inventories. You can Google it and find all kinds of free inventories online, but I took one about 20 something years ago, and I took one again about 2 months ago. And I'm still exactly the same kind of learner I have always been. No surprises. I am a concrete experiential learner, which means I struggle to understand abstract concepts. And I also am a hands-on learner. I have to do it to learn it. So we're going to talk about that today. But I do encourage you, if you've never ever done one of these learning style inventories or surveys, you should do it. It sheds a lot of light on your own style, but I think when you understand how you learn, you understand better how others learn. So check one of those out. So as I said, it's a hands-on approach. People learn by doing and reflecting on their experience. It emphasizes active engagement and practical application. It's definitely not a lecture-based traditional type of learning. And it involves a cycle, you can see the graphic here, of experiencing and then reflecting on that experience, thinking, and then acting. And it just allows for knowledge to become experience and vice versa. So here's the Kolb's 4-stage for those of you who like the academic side of things. This is basically a graphic that explains how that whole experiential learning takes place. I'll let you take a look at that for a second. I'm not going to go through it because it's way too academic for a concrete experiential learner like myself. Let me talk for a minute about the benefits. Active participation enhances the learning. It makes it more engaging and motivating. It improves retention. When people are having fun and they're doing things and they're feeling active in the class, they tend to keep coming and they retain the knowledge. I liken it to, I tried to think of a visual for this, and this is a terrible analogy, but this is the one that comes to mind because this is how my brain works. If you've ever hung a shower curtain on rings, if you put a couple of rings in the center, but none all along the top, then your shower curtain doesn't hang straight. It just sags in the middle, right? This is how I look at learning. The more points of contact that we can make with any given concept, the better it's going to stick. So if they hear it, if they write it, if they say it, if they draw it, all those points of contacts are just solidifying the learning process. And so that's my shower curtain analogy. Take it for what it's worth. We develop skills through experiential learning, problem solving, critical thinking, and then you can tailor it to meet the needs of your particular students and to their own learning styles. So a subcategory of experiential learning is kinesthetic learning, which emphasizes physical activity. For those of you who are longtime educators, I'm sure you're familiar with TPR, total physical response. This is basically moving while you're learning, and learners engage with the material by doing, touching, and moving instead of through passive methods like lectures or reading. So you can see in this picture, I've got a game here. I'm going to talk about that game in a minute, but I also have a picture of cotton. Why do I have a picture of cotton on here? I want you to notice, and I wish I could remember the name. I am a horticulturist, but I can't remember. It's not the sepal, but these little points that come off the cotton are actually quite painful. And when I cover history and talk about slavery, I pass around, because I actually grow cotton in my garden as an ornamental, and I bring in some cotton plants that are dried and let the students manipulate those to help them understand what it must have been like to actually pick cotton. And again, it's something little. It doesn't take much time, but it helps make that point of contact in their brain, and they associate what it must have been like, and they remember the question about what group of people was taken from and brought to the United States and sold as slaves. So that's why I have cotton on there. Again, manipulating, moving things around, physical movement, and I'm going to give you some examples of those. And then, again, just being able to touch and feel. So hands-on activities, role-playing. You can see in this picture on the bottom left, that's one of our fabulous volunteers who does our mock interviews. You can see the iPad there. We actually let them practice writing on a tablet just to try to make the situation more authentic. This volunteer, by the way, is a retired constitutional law professor from the University of Tulsa. So we're very, very lucky to have her. She loves doing it. She loves coming every quarter to do the mock interviews with our students. Building models, field trips, and then movement-based activities. Here is a matching activity. Again, they're manipulating objects. It seems very kind of basic and routine, but again, anything you can do to get away from teacher talk and more participatory activities, I believe is always better, because they're doing it themselves and they're learning as they manipulate and touch and look at these objects. So this is one, I don't know if you could read, it's probably too small, but this is all about what happens at immigration when you go for your interview. So there's things like put your keys in the tray, go through the metal detector, give your appointment letter to the receptionist, things like that. This is one of my favorite activities I do with my students. I had a colleague that called it speed dating, but it's basically I line up the students facing each other. I give them 1 minute and they have to practice small talk. And a lot of our students get tripped up in the interview. I explain to them that the interview starts the moment that officer greets them. So we practice small talk. And at first it's very awkward. And I have to really police them, especially when I have a monolingual class. This class in the picture is all Spanish speakers. So I have to make sure that I'm up and down listening to make sure no one's speaking Spanish. But they discover that it's harder than it seems. And so we do practice that quite a bit. But I have a little video I'm going to share with you just so you can see. You can't really hear what they're saying because they're all talking at the same time. But like I said, I set a timer. One line stays stationary and the other line moves down one person so that they're connecting with a different person every minute. So let me play this for you. So you can hear at the end, she said, "Where do you work?" So anyways, they have a lot of fun with it. It gets a little crazy and loud. That's why we do it out in the hallway and not in the classroom, but also for space purposes, they can spread out. But it's fun, but it drives the point home that they really need to practice that. This is another physical type of game called Human Timeline. I don't have a good picture of them lining up, but basically they take a time, like a year or a decade, and then they have to match the event, and they're all holding different signs, and so they have to find their corresponding partner. And so again, simple concepts, but getting them to associate it with a physical movement. Again, we're just making more contacts in our brain. This is a fun game. Three corners. This is ideally in a classroom, but again, I have a very small classroom, so we have to go out in the hallway. So I use this when I teach the branches, and I set up signs with the 3 branches. I ask them a question, typically something about the function or who constitutes this branch or whatever. And then they have to physically move to the sign that says the name of the correct branch. So I'm going to show you a video of that.
Which branch interprets the laws?
I don't know if you could hear me, but I said, which branch interprets the law? So what they all do is they look at each other. They look for the smartest student to see where they go, and then they follow. So I didn't have any tape that evening. Normally I tape them up on the wall. I had to use chairs. You can see them looking around. Let's see where she goes. She went over here, so I'm going to go over here because she's always right. So anyways, that's a fun one. Again, getting some movement, getting them out of their seats. It's a 3-hour class. So I try to incorporate a lot of physicality. This is a board game that I created that I'm going to have to revise now that we have all new questions. But I've got 4 categories. I'm going to have to change that because they basically wiped out all the geography questions. But it's pretty simple. It's kind of like Monopoly and Trivial Pursuit. They roll the dice. They have to answer a question, and then they collect a token when they answer a question in that category. I think I have a little video of that. Let's see.
Who was the first president?
Oh,
I think that's so funny. Sorry, I meant to stop it. Her question was, who was the first president? Sorry, I'm trying to get back to the previous slide. Hold on one second. Let me go back because you heard everyone collectively groan because she got an easy question. Who was the first president? Let me try that again.
Who was the first president?
oh,
Who was Washington?
George Washington. And then this one.
Dos. Ya, es el verde. Sí. Ay, perdí el turno con los dedos.
That one she landed on lose a turn. So, or roll again, I think.
Ah, azul. Ay, mira, va a ganar a mí. Ay, sí. ¿Cuáles son? Ay, en inglés. Ajá. What are the two major political party in the USA? US. Democratic and Republican.
Democratic and Republican. So she knew the answer. So, anyways, I have instructions on how to make that game. If anybody's interested, I have a document that you just email me and I'd be happy to share that with you. Graphic organizers are fantastic. I found this one, I believe, on Teachers Pay Teachers. And I'm always surprised every class when I break this out, how many people don't understand how to even read this type of chart. So this goes a long way into strengthening their skills, just having them learn how to read a chart. Pretty simple. They cut out the bottom section and then they have to glue it into the appropriate category. And so again, the manipulation, being able to physically touch these things just helps bring home some of those important concepts. And here's a little video of that. We get to use scissors and glue. Very exciting. When you're teaching adults, they get to release their inner child and play with scissors and glue. I always caution them, please let me check before you glue. And inevitably somebody glues things in the wrong space and we have to start over. But again, I'm always surprised by how many people really struggle with this exercise, which makes me want to do it even more because I feel like once they get it, it's really driving home those points. This is a sorting activity. You can do this with anything. I do it again with this one, I think was about the difference between the House and the Senate. I've also done it with the branches, but let's take a quick look at this video here. So they're sorting functions of each branch. You can see my high-tech sticky notes with E, L, and J on there. with the different branches. There's Mary working very hard. And then I use a lot of online materials. Again, as one of my favorite professors used to say, my favorite four-letter word is free. So most of the resources I'm showing you are available for free. Jeopardy Labs is one of my favorite websites, mainly because I'm a huge Jeopardy fan. My brother was on it in 2008 and won $76,000. No, not too bad. But anyways, you can create your own or you can browse. There's all kinds of games. And I find this is, again, the competition aspect kind of helps people up their game a little bit. Another freebie, you can make your own bingo cards. And so the nice thing about this is it generates several different cards so that no two players have the same card. A little trick of the trade. If you're a teacher, you know that you can bribe them with candy, and adults are no different. So we use M&Ms as our markers, and they get to eat the M&Ms when we finish playing. But I like to do this game at like the last class when we're reviewing. But you can certainly tailor it to whatever subject you're teaching. So again, that's my free bingo cards. There's all kinds of bingo generators online that are free. So I printed these in color and then laminated them so I could use them time after time. Something that I love to use in the class, and I learned this when I was teaching 5th and 6th grade, Kahoot. Does anybody here play Kahoot in class? They love it. It takes a minute to get them used to it because it does involve some digital literacy, and I'm going to talk about digital literacy in a minute. But this is a fun game that they will need an internet connection. We are fortunate to have Wi-Fi where I teach, and they'll use their phones to answer the questions. But basically, the questions appear up on the screen, and they only see the answers on their phone. The answers, the words are not there. It's just the color and the shape of the answer. So there's a lot of translating from what they see on the big screen to what they see on their phones. But it is a fun way to kind of see who's doing well, who maybe needs to study more at home. Again, that competition gets the adrenaline up and gets them thinking a little bit more. That simulation where you have to think and you have a limited time to answer, I think that's great preparation for the interview. You only have a couple of seconds to answer, so they learn how to process that adrenaline and use it to their advantage. And then again, we're using some digital literacy, and anytime you can promote that, I think that's a good thing. Learning Chocolate is another fun little website. I just started using this to do my own. I used to just browse and see what other people had created. But I put a QR code if you wanted to find it, but it's learningchocolate.com. I'm not sure why they chose that name, but if it has chocolate in the name, it can't be bad, right? So this particular one, it has different exercises, but it's covering, of course, the 3 branches. And then Ventures by Cambridge. Ventures is a series of ESL books, but they have a free, it's called Ventures Arcade, a free online component that has Citizenship. Now, I have not checked to see if they have updated the questions on here. So if anybody runs out to try this, make sure you check and make sure the questions have been updated. Again, these are all free. And then Quizlet. I think we've discussed Quizlet in previous workshops, but good stuff out there. Again, check and see if anybody has posted the updated questions. But it's a good thing. I like to send this to my students to study at home. So talking about digital literacy, why is that important to incorporate that in your citizenship education? It increases their engagement, their confidence, and their learning. It's helping them start to develop a sense of what's a reliable website. How can I evaluate a source for accuracy? I think that's so important, especially as we're educating future voters. And then just being able to communicate and find information. So any ways that we can empower our students to learn how to navigate the digital world, I think we should be doing that. I love to use movie trailers in my class just to give people a sense of the sound and the look of these periods of history. Trailers are usually 1 to 2 minutes, so it's not taking up a lot of time in your class, but it's something about that combination of moving images and sound and the music that just helps them understand and make that history a little bit more accessible, and to have kind of an association so that when they're thinking of whatever that question is, they're going to have a mental image in their brain. The Hacksaw Ridge, of course, there's not a lot of questions about World War II on there, but the reason I put this in there is when we cover the Part 9 questions about, are you willing to bear arms? If you're familiar with this movie, it's a fabulous movie, but it's about a medic who refused to carry a weapon. And I won't give too much away in case you've never seen it, but I like to use that to illustrate the whole part of defending your country without having to bear arms, the non-combatant definition. So movie trailers are fun. I also, even though there are no questions about these topics on the test, I feel obligated as a citizen of Oklahoma to tell my students about some pretty significant parts of our own history. So I'm sure you do this as well, but I do customize my content to talk about things that I feel like if you're living in this state, you need to know about these things. And of course, I'd love to teach an entire class on just Oklahoma history, but nobody's paying me to do that. So, but I do mention the worst incident of racial violence in this country, the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre. And of course, we're all familiar with the Trail of Tears. So I do cover that in the class. I like to use humor in the class. I'm not going to show all of these videos, but about halfway through my class, when students are starting to get tired and antsy, maybe about week 3 or 4, I like to show them this video that Jay Leno did a million years ago. And he interviews just people on the street and asks them the citizenship questions. And it's embarrassing. It's horrifying to watch, really. It's actually sad. It's not funny at all. But especially the lady who's a teacher. Oh, yeah. But it's very funny. And it gives them a sense, because I preface it by telling them this: you already know more than most Americans. And that really helps them keep going, because they feel a sense of empowerment when you show them things like this. And then I also like to show them the best and the worst of the national anthems. If you have never seen Fergie of the Black Eyed Peas at the NBA All-Star game, I'm not going to play it for you now, but watch it. Do me a favor and watch it. Your life will be forever changed. But anyways, just using humor.
Now,
because
if a Canadian like Pamela can answer all these
we're not
questions
going to watch
correctly,
that. But
shouldn't the average American?
It's embarrassing. Music. I like to use music in class. I'm not going to go through all this because I know we're getting short on time, but for teaching vocabulary, for isolating language or grammar, for memorizing. Of course, I always break out the old Schoolhouse Rocks videos in my class, especially with No More Kings, if you remember that one. It has the Boston Tea Party. Still relevant today, I might add. So what are some things you can do? You can do gap fill exercises by filling in missing words and lyrics. You can analyze lyrics, look for vocabulary. You can do sing-alongs. And then I love when we're talking about the Declaration of Independence. I love to break out Jonathan Groff's portrayal of King George from Hamilton. And I get them to all sing the little part where he goes da 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 da. So yes, we do that. I'm that crazy teacher. And then hot potato, my students absolutely love this. You've all played hot potato. You may have called it something else, but this is basically you pass around an object when the music stops, kind of like a cakewalk maybe. The student holding whatever object. I usually use a dog toy that's a hamburger. And then the music stops, they have to answer a question. And I love to see them get so animated when they play these games. Also using art in the classroom, another experiential activity. It's funny how I used to, when I had more time in class, I used to have them draw their flags when we talked about the flag. And it's so interesting how everyone has a story to tell about their country, about their flag, and giving them that freedom to express themselves creatively is very empowering. So if you have time for that, by all means. Other favorite tools that I like to use in the classroom, and you're probably already doing all of these things, but just kind of a reminder. When we do a lot of reading aloud out of Lynn's book. And for some reason, when I stop and we discuss something, we always lose track of whose turn it is. So I started passing around a talking stick, and wherever it stops, that's the next person to read. Simple but effective. And then when we're pairing up or working in small groups, I like to use this wheel of names. I put everybody's names, I spin the wheel, and that way they're not always working with the same partner. So it helps me create pairs or small groups. And it's kind of exciting because you watch the wheel spin and it makes some sound effects. And again, it's all about student engagement. I do put this in here because I like to address all the needs of my students as best I can. So, of course, we spend a lot of time talking about knowing what your rights are as an immigrant. We have the little red cards, as I'm sure a lot of you have. We talk about, in our area, we have an information helpline called 211. A lot of them have never even heard of that. They do have multilingual personnel. So if they call and say, hey, I need someone who speaks Burmese or Zomi or Dari or Pashto or Spanish, they usually have a translator that can help. But it just helps them access community resources. And then I did have a speaker come from a small nonprofit to talk about GED preparation in Spanish. So anytime that I can make them aware of community services and how they can continue to improve their lives, I do that. I will end here briefly with one of my favorite students. This is a young lady who earlier this year, while she was taking my class, her husband in that picture was diagnosed with leukemia. And the whole class really rallied around her. And when she wasn't at the hospital, she was in class because it was so important for her to get her citizenship. She did not want to miss, even though it was taking her away from time at the hospital. But she said it was more like a reprieve to get out of the hospital. But I'm happy to say that he is in full remission. And she is a citizen now. He was already a citizen, but that's one of my wonderful students and her beautiful family. There are some more beautiful students, but that's experiential learning. That's kind of the way I do things, not necessarily the right way, but we have fun, and I feel like if they're having fun, they're learning. I could be wrong about that, but Any questions?
Kelly, that was amazing. So we have a choice here, folks. The session went on longer, but it was fabulous. So we can have a few question and answers, or we can do the case presentation. I just want to see a quick show of hands for case presentation. Okay, one. Okay. Okay, question and answer. Show your hands if you would prefer question and answer. One, two. Okay, we didn't get a lot of response, but question and answer one. So I guess we will hold off on case presentation until next week. And let's go ahead with questions.
Okay, I've got the chat pulled up, so I'm gonna kind of just go through it there if that's all right, Mara.
That would be fine. Usually it's just awe and amazement at what you've done. So, Joanna Cuervo, you have a question?
Mm,
Hmm.
okay, I see here, Mara, you asked, do I give them sample dialogues? All the time. Yes, we do a lot of practice with the sample dialogues. And in some
Okay.
ways, I go back to, because there's a lot of really good ones, not only in Lynn's Ready for the Interview book. I love that one, but also in Bill Bliss's Voices of Freedom. We have some older copies of those. So I love to let them practice those conversations. Absolutely.
Okay. A lot of
Um,
questions about wanting a copy or a list of your
yes,
resources.
I'm going to put my email in the chat. Just shoot me an email. Tell me what you want specifically, and I'll be happy to share it with you.
Another option for that would be, Kelly, you share them with me and I send them out to everybody.
Okay.
Would that be easier for most people? That would be preferable? Okay.
Okay.
And if it links or whatever, it may be several different emails because I'm limited in how much I can send at a time, but we will get them out to everybody.
Okay. Here's a question from Gary about any changes to the interview process. I may not be the best person to answer that. From what I'm hearing, they're supposed to be longer, but in our Oklahoma City field office, it's the same old so far. Everybody likes the Kahoot. Yay, I'm glad you're using that. Yes, we'll get copies. Learning chocolate. Word wall. Yes, I love word wall. I use that more in my ESL classes, but definitely word wall is fun. The thing about word wall is, and if Allison, if you're still on, maybe you can help me with this. I've never found it unless you have a subscription to search for things in word wall. I have to actually use a Google search and then access it that way. Their search on their own website is not super user friendly. Is that true?
Yes, so you have to make your own, and it allows you to make 3 activities yourself for free without subscribing. And you can also print those out and use them as manipulatives. You can cut them up as well as doing it as on an online version. So it's good for like sorting activities and things like that. They have a lot of spinning wheels where you can, I have
Yeah.
one where you just use the question words like what, where, why, and then just
Yeah.
ask them a question beginning with that. So that's kind of
I,
nice,
yeah,
randomized.
I love word wall. I should actually add that to my presentation. I like the whack-a-mole one. There's kind of a
Yeah.
whack-a-mole one. But that's also good exercises that you can have students doing at home on their own. Donna reminds us that there are some experiential activities on the USCIS website, if that's still there. Yes, Schoolhouse rocks forever. I agree. Three-ring government. Tanya, can you tell us about that?
Oh, that's part of the Schoolhouse Rock videos.
Oh, I don't
So
think I've seen that.
yeah, we do three-ring government. We do I mean I use it quite a bit. We do what this is a bill. We do
Shot Heard Around the World, America's Melting Pot, No Kings, of course. Um, yeah, Shot Heard Around the World. Oh, the preamble. That's one we do a lot. In
Be the
1787, I'm told
in
my
order to form a more perfect union. Yeah, it's very dated. It's very dated, but I love
very
doing it.
dated. However, and I preface that in the class, just saying this was from the 70s.
Yes.
However, like you, I like to do 10 different things, with teaching multilingual students, you want to have them touch it and read it and say it and view it and, do it to 12 different times. But yeah, when you're talking about your program, it's just like my class. Honestly,
Great, great,
I
great.
can't wait
No,
to steal your ideas. And I already dropped some links in my syllabus. So,
excellent, excellent.
um,
No, I think
yeah,
those are repetition, but
yeah,
in different ways. If you keep
yeah,
saying it the same way, you're not going to reach everyone. So this is my way
exactly.
of trying to ensure that everybody gets it.
Yeah.
I like this. We'll have to check this out. This video link that Johanna sent about don't argue with the officer, don't be a Karen. Um, Aaron is asking about tuition. That's a good question. I was not happy about this, but I'm at the mercy of my employer on determining they did some research of our local market area. And the only other provider that we are aware of in the Tulsa area that's doing citizenship class is a private attorney. And of course, she's charging quite a bit for her semi-private lessons. So our tuition right now is $200 for 6 weeks. It's 36 hours of class. That includes a textbook. We use multiple textbooks in the class, but the textbook that they take home is Lynn Weintraub's Ready for the Interview book. Let's see what else. What else? Yes, we'll send out the printables. We can make a list. Blah, blah, blah. Classes run 6 weeks, 36 hours. Oh, Cameron answered that. Sorry. Oh, here's an interesting question from Kathy. I'm not sure I can answer it. Have you heard about interviews where the student shows up to the interview location and is tested remotely? I see some people nodding. I have
We
not
did that a
seen.
lot during COVID.
Well, yeah, in COVID, but even now you're seeing that.
It happens occasionally. Like I think if they have interviews scheduled and a lot of people are sick that day, a lot of offices, for example, if there are offices available in another office in a different city, they'll do a remote interview. So it happens
Interesting.
occasionally.
Same here in
Interesting.
California. Occasionally, we've seen that.
Oh my gosh.
And we saw it here on the West Coast. There was a shortage of staff, and they would have to be at their appointment at 6 a.m. Pacific time so that the interview in Chicago and the accent's so different from the Northwest. Some students really struggled. And so I added components of accent practice when that was happening. But yeah, when you talk to someone from Chicago who speaks really, really fast and you're used to the Northwest accent, all the students would come back and say, I couldn't understand that. So yeah, and being remote instead of seeing the body language and things like that would be really difficult, I would presume.
Yeah.
Tanya, it would be
Something.
great. I'm sorry, Tanya, it'd be so great if you would present on that, on how to teach a class for the different accents and the different ways. I think that would help us so much. I know my students struggle with Asian officers, and if you
Honestly,
could
I
teach them,
really
that would be
don't do
great.
anything different. I just actually assign seats. I don't let students who have the same accent sit next to each other. And when I pair them with different, and then I make them from the very first day read one sentence at a time,
Mhm.
in the dialogue from the book or whatever. And so they learn how to read one sentence. But also by week 8, they're amazed at how they actually can hear. The first night, they're like, I can't understand anything they're saying. Last class, I had 17 different countries in my class. And by the week 8, when we did the reading, they were all like, and I said, now think about the first day that you were in class, you couldn't understand anybody, but you've tuned your ear to those different accents. So I don't do anything special. Not
Well, I
present
think it
worthy.
sounds special, and I think it would be a great, at least at a minimum, a case presentation. That would be really fabulous.
Okay, let me know what I need to do.
Yes. All right. I think that's all the questions I saw. Unless somebody has something else.
Does anyone else have any questions? Comments?
I did see a question from Mary in the chat. I'm not sure who can answer this, but she asked about changes, any changes reported during the current shutdown.
Oh, are there even any interviews? I can answer that we are trying to collect some of that data. I think I sent the survey out yesterday. If not, I'll send it out today. So far, we haven't had any here, but because USCIS is a fee-based part of the government, and so they're saying that the shutdown should not affect their services. Someone has asked if I should be emailed for the interview. I am going to send, when Kelly gets the stuff to me, I will send it out to all of you using the quick email that I send all the other big newsworthy and helpful tools, like the stuff that Lynn just gave me sent out yesterday. I'm hoping that you find these emails helpful, whether they're the news or the or other tools that some teachers share. And if you're not getting them, please let me know.
I just have a quick question. Are you having a lot of people wanting to apply right now? I have, in the past week, helped 7 people apply. And I had 3 yesterday, 4 yesterday, 3 today. I have one more today, and I have 3 on Thursday because they're all trying to get in before the 20th.
Yes.
And I'm saying no by the 19th because I don't work on Sunday. We're gonna get in before that. But is everybody else having kind of that same? Are people rushing so they don't have to do the new test?
We are, but I don't do any of the applications. I work with a legal organization and I do the intakes. A bunch of us who are trained to do intakes. So we do intakes and then the legal reps and attorneys take over and they do the interviews because I want to make sure particularly now with the extreme vetting going on, we want to make sure that we're not putting somebody in jeopardy of losing their permanent residence. And so it's really important to have the legal oversight. But yes, we were slammed last week. I think I must have done 5 alone, and there were a lot of us volunteers.
So yeah, I don't do the application. I do give them the paper. I red pen the paper and say, I need this. These are the documents you're going to need and everything else. I'm not a legal representative, but I'm just, it's more than I've ever had in the more than decade that I've been doing this work. Yeah. And, I'm happy that, and I had 2 people pass yesterday. Yay.
Is anybody else seeing a lot of demand? Yeah, a lot of heads nodding. And I know at a meeting we had yesterday with a larger group, this response was the same. Yeah, everyone's trying to apply. Right. Yeah, great. Super job. Well, Kelly, once again, you have wowed. I feel so inadequate now.
No, it's all about, I think because I have a performance background, that's really what it comes down to. I feel the need to entertain my students. And so, for better or for worse, it may not be the most academic class in the world, but we do have fun. And I feel like if they're having fun and they're engaged, something is sinking in. May not be everything. I have a joke because edutainment. Thank you, Tanya. I have a thing for some reason, and maybe I'm not going to get political here, but maybe because things are a little different now. When I ask them who makes the laws, the answer is Congress, right? They never answer that question correctly. So I tell them, and this happens every class, I tell them you have to tattoo it on your arm. Congress makes the laws. And I tell them, for the love of God, if you don't remember anything else in this class, could you please remember Congress makes the laws? If that's the only question that you remember. So when they struggle with that question, I'll say, look at your tattoo. What does your tattoo say? Congress makes the laws. So I do whatever it takes.
That's great. So we will see you next month, I hope. Tell your friends. We will be going over the new test with both Lynn Weintraub. Lynn, do you want to say a few words about what you're going to talk about?
I don't know what I'm going to talk about yet.
Okay. And Bill is going to be doing some work on the differences and his suggestions for how to approach it. Oh, Kathy, all you have to do is have your friend or tutor, all of you, please, if you work in a place where you have volunteer tutors, they are more than welcome. I mean, we're all in this together. Send me an email to this address, or if you have Elliot's, send them there and he will send the registration link. People can get registered and they can get on board. And I hope they continue to come, not just one, but people come when they can. And the sessions are recorded with very few exceptions. And we did lose our recordings. They disappeared for a while, but between Brilliant Kelly and Elliot, we were able to recover almost all of them, and they should be up and available to be viewed. And we've got almost 2 years of recordings out there for anybody who wants to see what we've been doing over the past 2 years. We have our 2-year anniversary next month, and we'll be heading into our 3rd year. And we couldn't do it without you. We're here for you. We're here for one another. Thank you so much for joining us, and tell your friends, tutors, colleagues.